Okay. We should be good to go.
All right, guys, we are live. We got 4 minutes to go. So give everybody time to come on in. Come on in.
Yeah.
Come on in the room.
Oh, that's the number.
Come on in the room.
Eyes back.
He's back. Come on in the room. Jesus is my doctor. Writes out all my scriptures.
Oh, wait. Oh, I didn't know I had that up there. That's pretty cool. Take this.
All right, I see some people coming in. Come on. I hope you all got the post I put out earlier. Somebody's getting a $25 Amazon gift card tonight.
Me?
No.
Oh.
You the guest. The guest can't get the gift card?
I can't.
Mm-mm.
I can't for a minute.
Huh?
I said I should be able to get it.
Uh-oh. People coming on.
You got 5. I got 5. Never mind.
Guys, remember, when you come on, in order to get the gift card, you got to say, I'm on. And then we're going to randomly choose somebody to receive a $25 Amazon gift card after the show, not during the show. Please, come on, man. Come on. We don't do that on the Father's Authority. We don't do that.
Dad. Best dad. That's a requirement.
Oh, Lord. Cowboy fans. Ruining my show. Guys, count down 1 minute. No. Jesus is my doctor. Countdown. I'm gonna call it countdown to $25 tonight.
You want to share this on my page too, man?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'll share it.
All right, everybody. It is 8 o'clock, and you know what time it is. It's time for a Father's Authority, where we are changing the narrative and starting a conversation on fatherhood. Tonight, I have a very special guest, Pastor Gerald Thompson, Pastor G.
Hey, man.
Call him Pastor G. He is a good friend of mine. We go way back. He's my friend. He's my brother. You guys know I've talked to you guys a lot about having an accountability person. And as a married couple, having an accountability couple. And he and his wife are that for my wife and I. And, man, I'm just so glad to have him. We've had several conversations about fatherhood and different things. And he's one of the people that I get a lot of advice about fatherhood from. PG, how you doing tonight, man?
Great, man. Great, man. It's great to be here, and I'm glad you considered having me on your show.
Yeah, I did. And when you put that cowboy sign up, it made me rethink what I did. But guys, before we get started, I want to let everybody know as you come on, and I'll mention this again during the show. On my last post, I said, we're going to give away a $25 Amazon gift card tonight. So what you have to do is when you come on, you have to say, I'm on. And then after the show, we're going to randomly pick someone to receive a $25 Amazon gift card. And then we're going to let you know through email on Facebook. So let's get started. Pastor G, man, tell us a little bit about your story, about your life growing up with or without. First, tell us who you are and about your family.
Well, first of all, let's see. How can I start this off? Let's see. Do you want me to start off in 1980? No. I'm Pastor G. I pastor now Kingdom Embassy Ministry, or we call it the Embassy. And my wife, wonderful wife, Roz. I have a wonderful wife. She's a partner in ministry. I also have two wonderful children, Gerald and Chelsea. Chelsea's 21, and Gerald is 17, about to be 18.
Man.
Yeah, man. Time goes a long ways.
It does.
Yeah. Hey, all these people out there. Can I say hi to these people that are coming in?
You can say hi to them.
Okay, I'll say hi. There's Pastor James out there. Hey, Velma, how you doing? Samuel. Okay, and there's your wife. Hey, Keisha. Okay. We met. Let me just say, my wife and myself, we met at Norfolk State University. Behold,
the green and gold.
There you go. You know how to finish the statement.
$1 million.
Folks, what? Anyway. So anyway, I met her there. We've been married for 29 years. Right. And, we're on a never-ending honeymoon, and that's just been wonderful. You know, it's just been wonderful, and it's been great. It's been great. You know, God has blessed us, and it's just so much, man. It's a lot that goes on that comes along with this small package, but we are blessed.
That's good.
Now, you know, it's kind of interesting because I can go back to where I met my wife. She was in the marching band. She came to the marching band, and it was kind of interesting. I had gotten back from, rookie band camp.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't a rookie anymore. I was a vet, and I came back. You know how the vet comes back, and you got to get your drum and everything.
Right.
And so I came back, and a friend of mine said, "Yeah, man." I said, "Who was that young lady, out there, marching and so forth?" And he started telling me and so forth, and I caught her eye and so forth, and of course, let's see what else happened. I don't think it was love at first sight. It was more of I know this gonna sound deep to some people, but I'm gonna let you know. I just knew that I didn't know her name, but I just knew that she was the one. Now, I don't know how you want to take that, but I just knew it. And before that, so what's that? You said, "Oh no, man." So she said, "No, I met her and so forth, and I talked to her." And she said, "Well," I said, "Well, I'm going to marry you." She said, "How are you going to say that?" I knew her name was Roz after I met her. She told me her name, and actually it was interesting because a friend of mine, we talked, and before I said, "Man, I'm a married girl by the name of Rosalind." And, I had this dream and so forth. I just knew it and so forth. And when I got to NSU, I said, "Oh my God." When I found out her name was Roz, I was like, "Oh yes, that's the one. That's one." I just knew it. I just knew it. She was cute. She was a cutie. She's my cutie pie. You're the reason why. She was cutie pie. Anyway,
that's how you're bringing the point tonight.
But anyway, and then she told me that her dad was a pastor. I said, "Oh goodness, no." Yeah. I said, "No, my goodness, boy." But her family was great. They invited me in. They treated me just like her dad treated me just like a son. And this guy was very unique. I mean, he was just so suave. I mean, you know, debonair. I mean, he was a pastor, but his stuff was pristine, sharp. How he dressed and everything was really great about this guy. And he really loved God. The family did, and they invited me in. And I think more so that was what won me over, his presence as being a dad. Hence your show segue into that moment.
That's good. So tell us about your life growing up with or without your father.
Okay, I grew up. Now, I was born in San Diego, California. My wife, of course, we talk about that every now and then. She said, "You weren't born in California." I said, "Yes, I was," and I showed her my birth certificate. So, anyways, I was born on the military base. My dad was in the Marine Corps, and we lived there in California for a while. He was in my presence. I lived in California up until like maybe six-ish, and we would travel back and forth from LA. I never knew why we were traveling back and forth from LA. My dad, he got out of the military, and of course, what we know today is that PTSD, of course. And we didn't know, you know, but we grew up. He was in the, he served in the Vietnam War, and he came back, and he didn't come back to school. I had a dad before the divorce. Of course, my father and my mom, they divorced. Actually, they were separated for a period of time, and it was a lot of things that took place within that. When I got older, I had an opportunity to talk to my aunt about a few things, and she enlightened me to quite a bit of what was actually happening in the whole process. So it's an interesting thing that took place, you know, by you being a child. You know, we lived in a house, you know, in California, East LA. We lived in East LA. We lived in Compton as well. I went to Compton. It was an elementary school. I'm still trying to find my picture to show my wife because she said, "You ain't from Compton. You ain't lived there." But anyway, I could have sworn, man, I went to school with Dre and all those guys. No, I'm just joking. I don't know, man. But, you know, Eazy-E and all those guys. But, man, it was, you know, it was great. You know, then my dad was really, he was present in life. Of course, my mom could say certain things, you know, as a child. It's like, "I'm going to tell your dad," and that was it. I was like, oh, my goodness. It was over. You know, he just had that presence. And when we came, of course, imagine this coming from LA and then moving to the East Coast, Southampton County, or actually Cortland, Virginia. That's where her parents, her mom was from. And that was kind of interesting because we, you know, coming from two different dynamics, we were never told what was actually happening as children. And but all I know is we went from indoor plumbing to outhouses. Now, I don't know how you want to deal with that, and a pot in the house, you know, to do your stuff in the business overnight. And then, you know, in the daytime, you got to go use this thing. And I'm like, man, you know, you talking about traumatized. That's like traumatic. I'm like, where's the bathroom? You know, we can't, you know, we're like, where's the bathroom? You know, because we would come back and forth, you know, we would see our cousins and so forth. We were, it was so fun because the country was fun, man. And we would come back. Then we would get on the plane because my dad, he worked with Pan Am during that time. And we would travel. We would fly, you know, because he was an employee. We would fly back and forth, see my grandparents, and then we'd go back. But this time it was interesting because we flew and we stayed. And I was like, when we going home? When we going home? I want to go back home. Because, you know, when I was growing up in LA, you know, I don't know if you're familiar with Charlie Brown, the Peanuts and all that, you know, but what was pretty cool about all of that, we had books. You know, my dad was, you know, avid reader, educated. This guy was, you know, very intelligent, you know, before he passed and so forth. He had multiple degrees and all this other stuff. I mean, very intelligent man. So, you know, we had all these books and we were encouraged to read and so forth, you know, but then when I get on this side, you know, I don't know what it was. It was like, what is this? It wasn't bad. I love the country and so forth. Love my grandparents and uncles and whatnot. But it was a different dynamic. You know, it was really different. But coming from the West Coast to the East Coast, it was really different. And we had to adjust. And we never got clarity behind all of that. As when I got older, my aunt told me about certain things that, you know, of course, gentlemen, men that would come back from, you know, the war, they would deal with different things. And, you know, they didn't give it a name during that time, PTSD. But the thing is that, you know, he would wake up in the middle of the night. My aunt told me that, you know, he would probably, you know, was choking my mom, you know, because he didn't know where he was. And, you know, and that before he left, when he came back, it was a total different situation. So, you know, it was different because I was a military child. You know, we moved from place to place when I was younger, and it was different. It was a different dynamic. But if I could describe that, it was really, I had him at the beginning, but then when I got on the East Coast, I had to kind of pick up things from my granddad. Had good work etiquette, you know, ethics and so forth. I had uncles; they all worked, you know, and they was just hard workers. That's about it. But that's basically the mindset. But I had to shift. Of course, my mom, she had 5 children, single mom, 5 children after we left my grandparents' home, moving to a place called Dorchester Square. If anybody out there, Dorchester, it wasn't Dorchester in Boston, but this was a Dorchester. It's kind of interesting. They got Dorchesters everywhere. But this neighborhood was generally designed for single parent moms with children. And so it wasn't designed for the spouse or married couples and so forth, but it was that. And that's why they call it the project. So Anyway, you can relate to that. So she struggled quite a bit. My mom was a fighter, though. She was definitely a fighter. And she, you know how you have the disciplinarian, of course, the father, and then the mother, the nurturer. It was different because my dad, you know, my dad could just walk in. His voice was like James Earl, you know, from Lion King, Mufasa. He had that Mufasa. When he came in, when he heard that voice, you know, everybody was like, you know, real quick. But he was a big dude too, man. About 6'3", 6'4". I mean, he was a big dude, man. And I'm gonna tell you, I just love to see my dad in his Marine Corps outfit. You know, that uniform, it was something else. I always wanted to go, but I didn't. And of course, so it was a different dynamic anyway. So I had to learn and progress and in a life without my dad. You know, it was tough, but I had other men in my life as well. My uncle, one uncle in particular. Kudos to him, Uncle Duke. Everybody knows Duke. You know, he probably did. I don't know if anybody out there, they probably streaming. I mean, we're streaming and they're probably watching. Great guy. I mean, he came in, kind of steered me in the right direction, influenced me heavily, and great guy. He's alive today, and you know, loving the life. He's a really great inspiration. Pushed me in the right direction in terms of going to college because I was going to the military, but he said, nope, you need to take all these other classes so you'll be prepared to go to college. And my brother and my sister, they were very instrumental in terms of pushing me to go to college as well. Both of them were in the Army, and they said, nope, you're going to be the first one to go to college out of our family. So I did, and I graduated and also got my master's. So somewhere in between there, it was there were times where I wanted my dad, you know, straight up, you know, it's like, nah, I'm not receiving the answers my mom giving anymore. You know, you get older, when you start getting older, it's like, something ain't working, you know, this ain't working. So your comments are not working right now. I need to know. And we spent time with him periodically, you know. He would come and talk to us about different things and take us, you know, we would hang out with him every now and then. But he just had that problem. I think and I think most military families, children, they deal with quite a bit. I mean, there's I wouldn't call it traumatic or whatever, but I think it would be something psychological that children deal with when their parents are in the military, and and especially the things that the father or the mother deal with, and somehow or another the children become victims of the whole moment. So that's what happened in a nutshell. So long story short, military child, West Coast, coming to the East Coast, separation, then eventually divorce, then of course what to do. And I think the biggest thing is, how do you move forward in your life when you see some of your other, I had friends in high school and so forth, they had dads and things like that. It was a little different. After the fact, when I got back with my dad and we talked and so forth, and he made mention, he said, man, I thought you would have played baseball at the university. I was like, what? How'd you know about baseball? So I didn't know he would come to some of our games.
Oh, wow.
Some of my baseball games, but I didn't know. But, because of the legal aspects, it's a whole man.
Yeah. I think I lost you for a second. There you go.
Yeah, it was a little tough behind all of what was happening. But I would say this, in essence, with God in my life, it just simply, that was the Father pushing me toward where the invisible Father, but the visible Father, if I could say that.
So how did you feel? Told you that.
It was crazy because, and I know these are probably some of the questions that you're going to ask. I believe if he had been at one of my games and just say, you could do it, that would have made a difference. I played all the positions in baseball. Let me tell you, I sucked at baseball when I first started playing. And I was horrible. Man, I got joked all the time. But I practiced and I practiced and I practiced. And next thing you know, I was pitching and I was doing all these other things. But here's the thing. I truly believe if he had been there just to say, yo, you could do this, I might have been in the major leagues.
Oh, wow.
And I think that's just the impact of a father. A father could say certain things that a mother just can't say, and I think that would have been the iceberg on the cake, the icing on the cake, the icing on the cake. So
yeah, was that pushed you further?
Yeah.
With that, because he said that you could do it, it would have made you, something about when a father says you can do it, like you said. I remember when I was in the bands, especially when I got to Norfolk State, and a friend of mine that I was in high school with, we were roommates, and his parents would come to the game, and but I would always say everybody else's father's there, but mine wasn't there, so they'd go out to eat with their fathers. They go
wow,
to do things with their father, and it just wasn't the same. So we got a question: what if a mother keeps the father away from the kids? A good question. You want to answer that?
I'm gonna say this. I'm a strong believer that no matter the situation, adults need to be adults. They need to grow up. That's the first thing.
Mm-hmm.
And realize that father should be able to speak into that child's life. Now, I'm not talking about somebody that's not literally trying to live a good life and do things that are right. But if a mother is keeping that child away from the father, you're doing that child a disservice. You shouldn't do it. It shouldn't be. I really believe that a father can speak certain things into children's lives that a mother can't. That just can't. All right, if I can go from a biblical standpoint, the blessing is spoken by the father over the child, not the mother. And you can do that if you want, or if you have that situation, but there's just something that just ignites inside of a child when that father says something. It's just, I go to my son basketball games now and whatever. They can be getting smoked. They can get their butts whipped. I mean, whatever. But I'm still up there and I'm just pushing him, yelling at him and so forth. Of course, about to get thrown out the place. But that's just how it is. I think you get more questions out here.
Yeah. We got Roberto says, so basically it's all about the kids and not how the mother feels. Basically,
that's Roberto. Okay.
Yeah.
I know who you are now. Okay, I got you. Parents got to understand this. You can't use the children as a payback mechanism. I'm just saying you can't do that. And I know the father didn't carry the child, but still at that. Eventually, when that child gets older, they're gonna grow up and they're gonna want their dad. They're gonna want to talk to their father, regardless. Yep. Now, this can play against the mother as well, because the child might get older and say, "Why you keep me from my dad? I mean, why I couldn't speak to him or saying that's why?" And now where you have a child that will probably say, "You know what? I really love my mom," and whatever. This stuff can flip on you. Now the child's like, "Man, I don't like you. Why do you do this?"
Yeah, and what you got to realize is that some of these mothers, they like you said, they're doing it out of spite for the fathers, and it's not fair to the child. And what she has to realize is that that child needs a dad, because some of them do it if the father won't be with them. They figure if he can't be with them, then he can't be with the child. But what I want to say to the guys that asked the question, I had a friend of mine whose baby's mom wouldn't let him see his son, and he found out that you guys have rights, and he took it to court. And he went to court. He got a lawyer. He found out what his rights were. He made the sacrifice, paid the money to find out what his rights were, and then he ended up getting full custody of his son. But that you have rights to be able to see your child. My advice would be, and I know Pastor G would say the same thing, is just pray, ask God for guidance, and then go find a lawyer and just find out what your rights are. And then if you have to go the court route to fight to see your child, because you got to fight.
Yeah.
Be able to see your children, spend time with them.
I would say that, you're going to have to do that. And I think rightfully so. It shouldn't even, and then if you get full custody and you the dad, you shouldn't have that right to let the parent no longer, the spouse, your wife, or not your wife, but the child's mom, not see that, you got to
work it out. Yeah.
It's just like adults need to be adults. And, but here's this from a cultural standpoint, man, it's a little interesting today, how people see, but from my perspective, I'm saying that it was a little tough because I'm speaking from being a military child going into this whole situation. It's a little different with civilians and what have you. But, I thought about it. And, when my aunt told me about the situation, I was like, man, that, and my mom was tiny. She was small. I mean, she was really petite. Chelsea, if you see my daughter, Chelsea, you're looking at my mom. That's my mom. So that's just how it is. So, somebody that's small, defend herself, So we had to do certain things. There were certain things that, and then, in my mom's defense, she was probably thinking too, like, yo, you can't go and what have you to stay with him because certain things might kick off and, what have you. And I think, this is sad because a lot of people who come back from these big wars and things of that nature, their parents are, their minds are not totally there. They have to cope. There might be alcohol. My dad, he would drink and things of that nature. But, I don't know what he was dealing with upstairs. And, to this day, man, I was like, man, wow, that had to be tough, really tough.
Yeah. It had to be. So let me ask you, what does fatherhood mean to you?
Being there for your children, regardless. Being there for your children. Being the God kind of man that God has called you to be. It does not mean that, listen to this. If you're out there, dads, I'm just making an appeal. If you don't make 6 figures a year, if you don't make $1 million a year, if you're not the Huxtables, if you're not all these other people that they create on TV, your child will respect you by being there for them and doing the things necessary to provide for them and to love them. That's the bottom line. And there's no cookie cutter idea for fatherhood. I would just have to say also that you got to deal with the uniform. You know how we've been taught years ago. It's like you got to deal with the uniform you've been given. You know, you got to deal with the team you've been.
Lord have mercy.
You got to deal with the team that you're on, and you got to deal with that. God is no respecter of person. He gives the same grace to every father, regardless of how much money you make a year. That father at that game, watching in the stands, just to be there, it's just something different about it. It's totally different. So I would just say fatherhood is you're taking care of your responsibility. Anybody can, donate, sperm. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say that on air, but you can donate sperm and there you have it. But you're not a sperm donor. You're a father. You have responsibility.
And it's the key thing, like you said, just being there. A lot of fathers said, like you said, you don't have to make $1 million, even if you don't make $50,000. If you work at McDonald's,
that's right,
40 hours a week, as long as you go and see your child, pick them up, and say, let's go get an ice cream.
That's right.
Go out. I never met my father. I reached out to him, found him online, reached out to him, and said, I don't even want to know why you left. I just want to have a conversation. Just a conversation. And sometimes they just need it. Like Caleb is just happy when I just sit in the floor and play with his rocket ship with him. If he got, as long as he got daddy sitting right there. If I'm sitting there just holding a toy in my hand,
that's right.
And so guys, that's all it's about. That's all they want. They just want your time. I had a guest on that said, I don't remember exactly what he said, but he said the most important thing to your kid is time.
Yep. There you go.
The important thing to your child is time. It's time. What you say?
You don't get that time back, because when they get older, it's nothing you can say. It's like nothing you can say. It's interesting. Some of the guys that are, kind of funny. We'll talk about that a little later, because I'm looking at some of the names of people that are popping up. Some of these kids that were actually in my Sunday school class and whatnot. It's kind of funny. We used to take them over our house all the time and have fun and things of that nature. We were partnering with the fatherhood piece with the kids as well. And I just believe that, Nate, you're absolutely right. When you just me being able to sit there with my son, we hang out, we do, and he just, sometimes he rides with me in the car. He don't say nothing. He just wants me there. Sometimes, if I go out and do one of my 100 jobs that I got to go, Nate said, the GOAT. Facts, big facts. So, just being there, man, I truly believe my son will do some great things in life, but one thing that he will take with him, he will take the fact that my example to him as a father, he will take that with him. He sees me when I'm praying, he knows that I'm not just playing around, like I just go to church with him. Nah, he can come in my room. He'll see me praying, and I don't do it just for him. I'm doing it for everybody, but he sees my example. So, and I think that's a big part too, back to that other question that you were talking about, is just like being fatherhood is being that example. You have to be that example for the child. You know, I don't do one thing at church and then come home and do another thing. Me saying I'm disappointed at him, when I say that I'm disappointed, what he does from that standpoint is that he he stops. I don't have to yell at him or do it. I can just say I'm disappointed, just like that. And he gets it. He's like, man, I got to get it together. Then, you know, opposed of some of the other methods. But then there's also the other methods when they're a little younger, that you have to put the fear of the father inside of him before he gets older, because of course he's going to get older and bigger than you. And then of course, if you leave the house or you go somewhere, he might try his mom or something like that. He has the fear of Gerald in his heart. Not only the fear of God, but he know I will knock him. Yeah, I'm gonna knock you out.
and I know that for a fact. I've seen you interact with Lil G. I see you interact with Chelsea, and I see how you handle them both. And you know, some of the things that, you know, I've gotten advice from you on fatherhood, on how to handle Caleb in certain situations and things like that. So I know that your methods work, and
they will work.
Yeah. So
they've been tested. No.
So what's the best part of being a father?
Right now, I think the best part of being a father is seeing your I think one of the best parts is seeing them take your advice and use it.
Okay.
And grow. I mean, them growing up, obviously, but taking the wisdom and using it. I think that brings me more joy than anything. It's like, well, dude, why you got, you know, it's like, why do you have to, you don't ever have to fail a test. You know, I'm just saying from my standpoint, it's like, you don't have to fail a test. It's like, why don't you just listen, you know, when and making good judgment and making critical decisions and being able to just simply discern what is the best situation. I think seeing them grow up and seeing them mature is one of the delights that I have, to see a child, I mean, my children simply maturing.
That's good. That's good. I feel the same. I'm watching. Caleb will be 4 on Sunday, and just to see, at this age, see his personality coming out even more, his conversations that he have with me. Now we're having full-blown conversations.
Yeah.
He's spelling out words. He's correcting me. One day he was like, "Daddy, what shape is a moon?" I said, "It's a half moon." He said, "No, Daddy, it's a semicircle." You know, like, my bad. You know, I didn't say the proper word. But,
oh,
he said, "No, Dad, it's a semicircle."
That's a semicircle. Do you know that?
Right. But to see him learn and see him growing and maturing, you know, I'm glad seeing, like, certain things I say to him now, he's saying them back to me, or he's saying. So how important?
Hold on. Before you ask that question, I also, this was a touchy moment where the first moment that we had communion and my son was taking communion. We were in church together, and he was taking communion. I was taking communion, and I was like, wow, that meant a lot to me. Not having a father in my life growing up, you know, being able, and that's a joy that I get, because I'm seeing him grow into a young man being in his life now. Yeah. And not just saying separated and what have you. I can see it, and God's permitting me to see him grow into a great young man.
And that's good, because one of the things when I first started this, when I was talking to Keisha about it, one of the things that we wanted more than anything were fathers who are successful with their children who didn't have their fathers.
Right. That's
right. Because that can show that how God can take a man who didn't have a father growing up, and how God fathers you and then teaches you how to be a successful father. And we can get, and I have fathers on that had their fathers and fathers on that didn't have their fathers. But one of the things I really wanted to show was how you can be a successful father when you did not have a father.
Well, this gentleman has gone to be with the Lord. I had mentors as well growing up. There was one guy, Moses, I think his last name, Moses Lawrence. Moses was so cool. He was a recreation director in Franklin, where we lived, and one of the many places that we lived. So Franklin, when we lived there, Moses Lawrence was there. Moses was cool. Moses had this little fro. Moses had this little, sweet little set shot. Moses, pretty cool. But one thing Moses didn't take is junk from kids. He didn't take any junk. He was like, yo, I ain't taking nothing from you. You need to get yourself together. And, he would trick that. And it was so cool. I was a part of, playing basketball and everything growing up. And this was the first time that I was ever away from home. He sent me on a trip. It was called Concerned Athletes in Action. It was about, inner city kids and so forth coming together. And they had professional athletes that would come in. Raymond Lee was he was our coach. He played football, professional football player. We had an opportunity to go and be a part of that. He chose me to be a part of that. And I was like, man, and we went to Bowie State. And he stayed up there for a whole week. And, my mom let me go and everything. But, man, he saw something in me. And I think that was a turning point in my life, because I got out of the environment that I was accustomed to, and I was able to see something. He was an inspiration. A great mentor. From that point, I also, of course, Emmett Nichols. Man, when we played baseball, my baseball team, it was oh my God, they're gonna get me for this. Butler Paper Cavaliers. If they're out there, probably will look at that. We were like the Bad News Bears, for real. I'm talking about for real. I mean, we had the real Buttermaker, But anyway, he was the African American Buttermaker. But we were all on that team, man. We were just like that. They could have did an African American version of that with us, straight up. But anyways, we lost that whole year. But his son, oh my God, his son came in. Let me see if I can remember his name. David Kendrick. David Kendrick. He was, of course, martial artist as well. But he came in, and he was older, mature, and so forth, or whatever. Man, he came in. He whipped that baseball team baseball team right in shape. We came back and we won the championship that next year. Boy, we were like, yes. It was big time, but he was impactful as well. Then moving on, I wanted always to be a part of the American Legion. The American Legion, they all had the dance and everything. These cats, man, these guys would come in and beat us every year. But that last year, we beat their tail. But anyway, it was another guy by Emmett Nichols. He was so influential, impactful. He came in, he believed in us. We started our own Pony League baseball team and so forth, and really encouraged us. And man, that guy was so cool. He let us do he ain't let us do everything, but he helped us out so much. And then, of course, my uncle and so many. It was important to have mentors, if I could say that. It's important to have mentors. If you don't have a father in your life and you're growing up, you're a young man, it's important to have mentors. It's mentors. You say, how good? Okay, somebody got a question out there, Nate, I think.
Well, no, Nicholas, he said that's an awesome question. How can you be a good father when you didn't have one? He said, I can relate to that answer. Finding mentors you can relate to. Pastor G, you were definitely that for me growing up. That's awesome. Full circle. Someone to you and you put into others. So that's someone that you've impacted.
Right.
Well, it's good to see that.
And Nick is a great young man. You know what? I would strongly suggest to have him up there. He's military. Nick is real cool. Nate, Jeff, all those guys, man, they're really cool kids. But I mean,
Nick, you hear that? Send me a message, Nick. Inbox me.
Yeah, Nick is really good, man. His mom used to beat their tail in church stuff.
Man, why you gotta put that man on blast? All right,
I put you on blast. He used to beat all of them. She used to beat them all down, boy. I was like, but I think sometimes they came to my house and got away.
Jake, I'm sorry, man. I ain't put him up to that. So Pastor G, next question.
Go ahead, man. My bad.
How important are a father's words to his child?
It is like it's like a priceless pearl. Nate's laughing too. I'm sorry, there's another guy out there. He laughing too. I'm gonna come back to the answer, but Nate laughing too. Nate used to get his butt whipped too. Butler, oh my God, hey,
come on, little guys.
It was like escape to Pastor G's house. They would escape to our house, man. Oh my God. Oh my God. It takes a village to raise a. I'm telling you,
it does.
It's a village to raise. Hold on, I got sidetracked. Let's go back.
Yes,
Okay. Words, they are priceless. They are priceless pearls, treasures. I mean, gold. I mean, I'm talking about nuggets, man. Like I said before, a father could say certain things that a mother just cannot say.
Mm-hmm.
You know, my daughter, I have a father to daughter relationship. You know, my daughter, she goes spastic and whatever. And when Ross gets straight and whatever, I get in the car with her all calm and say, Chelsea. And I try to speak reason. You know, it's just, God just put it on us. I mean, we just got it. Like, I mean, honestly, if there's things that we could say and we can hit home that now the mom could say certain things that does help. Now, don't get me wrong with that, but there's a different, as I stated before, from a biblical perspective, the father can speak the blessing over the child, and that carries on. And I look at that really, Nate, if you think about it, when a father speaks the blessing, that could be even, hey, great job, son. It could be like, oh man, you can do it. You can get it. You're gonna be successful. You're gonna be prosperous. We talk to our children like that all the time. It's like, no, you can't say that. Do you know who you are? No. Do you know who you are? It's like, no, you're a Thompson. No, we don't think that way. We confess. We live the best. We drive the best. We wear the best. We operate in the best. We have everything God said. You know, I go all the way in. No. And then the next thing you know, you said, you're right. Okay, I got it. So
yeah, it's just funny. We said something. I was talking to Caleb this morning, and I don't remember exactly what I said, but I said he was something. He said, no, Dad, I'm a Holloway.
There you go.
I was like, yeah, you know, he said, I'm a hallway.
That's how he got it.
Yeah, he got it. And it's good shit because, like I said, I always say I do this thing with him every day. When I drop him off at school, I say, you're great. You're a champion. You can do anything. And Jesus loves you. So now I just say, what are you, Katie? He said, I'm great. I said, what are you? He said, I'm a champion. So what can you do? He said, anything. I said, who loves you? He said, Jesus. And then when he came home from school, I said, what you do today, son? He said, I was great. You know, he said, every day I was great. And it's important because they get that when you speak into their lives, our words go into their future.
Right, exactly.
Speak to them like your kids. G is about to be 18. Chelsea is 21. Words that I know you can see words that you've spoken to them coming out now.
Oh yeah.
And it's going to go follow them for the rest of their life.
That's great. I think Sean said something really powerful. Yeah, a father becomes a voice of reason. A mother becomes a voice of settlement.
That's good.
Yeah, that's very good. Yeah, that's really good. Yeah, and you know, if you don't hear my voice of reason, you're gonna hear the voice of persuasion.
And sometimes that's needed because we look at like sometimes they look at it now if you discipline a child, if you spank a child, that you're hurting them. No, because sometimes it's neat. You don't have to abuse your child.
Yeah.
To spank them and discipline them. Every now and then I have to pop Caleb, and it hurts when I have to pop and see that look on his face. But I know that to truly love him, I have to discipline him, because if I don't, then he's going to grow up in life thinking there are no consequences to his action, and then the police are going to discipline him. Now, and who knows what happened? You know, And I don't want it to happen. So to keep that from happening, that I need to be the one, the father who sets the tone of discipline, whether it's with my words, whether it's with popping them, or whether it's with timeout, whether it's with punishment.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's right. Because when you came over with your son,
this interview is over.
I would have made. I said, okay. But then I said, all right. Then it kicked in. I said, all right, Nate, good. Yeah. All right.
You know what?
You know what's real funny though, Nate?
What's that?
What I think about is that when you bring a baby home, it don't come with no instructions.
Right.
And there's no cookie cutter for that individual because all babies are not the same.
They're not.
Hey, that's a disclaimer right there. I just want everybody to know out there, all babies are not the same. You got to deal with them according to knowledge as well.
Yeah, some of them.
My son, he responds one way, and my daughter, I can talk to my son straight up. Chelsea, yeah. It's like, okay, I gotta say, I have to speak to them differently. You can't treat them the same way. But it's totally different. It's totally different. But anyways, that's the point. Now, hold on. Now, let me tell you about the discipline. I agree with you on that. As far as discipline, I definitely believe in discipline, disciplining your children. Now, I live by the Bible. And I don't do with all this other stuff that people say, whatever, when we were growing up, I'm not even going to talk about how we were disciplined.
Man.
Look, listen to this. I'll tell you this. I was in a conversation. I was in an adult conversation. I said, I knew I was not supposed to be in this conversation, but all the other children, they were masterful. And just leaving when the adults would convene at the kitchen table. Me and my young self, I did not know the meaning of that moment when they started talking about adult matters. So I'm so ignorant, naive to the whole moment. I'm sitting there and I'm standing up, and I remember to this day because I'm scarred. I was standing at the table, and my granddaddy started saying something about me. And, older people would normally embellish the stories. The stories would just simply expand and to grow into certain things which they aren't. And being the child that I was, very eloquent, I'm reading and I'm writing and I'm so intellectual. And I'm standing at the table, and my grandfather went on this discourse about something that I had done. And I said, no, I didn't. You a lie.
Oh,
My granddad reached back. They didn't have slow motion cameras, but I saw it in slow motion coming my way. That hand came out of nowhere, out of the east, all the way to the west, and it met me upside my head. I think he slapped me in the floor. I said, oh my God, what am I doing? My grandma said, no, he loves you. He loves you. I said, no, he don't. That was abuse. Some of that was abuse. I'm going to tell you right now. They got away with everything.
Man, my mom would be on the other side of the room, and you say something, it's like you just saw a shoe or something come flying past your head, or if it didn't hit you in the head.
Nate, it was they threw a telephone at us. It was a shoe. It was a pot in the kitchen. It was everything. And don't run over her in the grocery store with the grocery basket. You were subjected to get slapped upside the head right in the grocery store.
Man, you're funny, man.
Okay, man, I'm stop with all that.
No, you good, man. You good. One more question.
Okay.
What advice would you give your children about faith?
I would tell them, master how to live by faith, because you're gonna have to do that regardless. Watch our example and learn to live by faith. Because in this day and time, when they get older, of course, obviously any child, when they get older, there are certain things they're not going to be open opportunities for you just because you have the credentials. You're going to need God. You're going to need favor. You're going to need God's faith. You're going to need to continue to confess, continue to walk out and live a life by faith, and not how can I say it? You can't rely on someone else's faith. You have to rely. I'm laughing at. What is this Mama said?
Call the people you mind to the gear.
Oh, that is funny right there. Oh boy. Oh my goodness. Mama said, oh yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. That's what happened. Yep. Exactly. That's what would happen. Exactly. Mine would say, you know what? You can dial the number, but you ain't gonna have the fingers by the time they get here.
Right, you pull it back another.
You gonna pull back another. They were clever. They would come up with all these sayings, boy. Like, oh, what? And anyway, I got off my whole thing about faith. Look, faith is the key. God has simply told us to live by faith. And my kids, they see us living by faith, and we tell them and so forth that this is not something that mommy and daddy does. This is something that they have to do too. They're gonna have to learn how to do it.
That's good. That's good. As she meant it.
Yeah. Yep.
But that's good, man. That's good. And it's good that you said that they see you living by faith, and that's what we have to do, especially as fathers. We have to live our example. We have to be the example to them on how we treat their mother. Even if you're not with their mother, you still got to be an example on how you treat the mother and how we live by faith with them. Because if we're believing for something, like I'm trying to teach Caleb now, I want to find a way to teach him how to exercise his faith now, like with the Hot Wheel cars things. Mm-hmm. You know, he said he wanted 100 Hot Wheel cars. And I said, okay, we're gonna believe for 100 Hot Wheel cars, we're gonna get 100 Hot Wheel cars. So the funny thing is, when I put out that he said he wanted 100 Hot Wheel cars, people started buying cars for him. You know? Mm-hmm. So it's like, and I can use that. I want to use that as a moment teaching when he get 100 cars to show him how he got them. And, you know, he didn't have to even pay for them. I didn't even have to pay for them. I bought 4. You know, the rest people have been buying him. So because he spoke it and said he wanted, he doesn't understand that. But because we spoke that and put it out there, you know, his faith in him believing he's going to get 100 Hot Wheel cars, got his 100 Hot Wheel cars. And that's good, because we do have to teach our children about faith. That's an important thing.
It's so vital. It's so vital in this day and time because things are not fair. And if they're not, then you have to reach into another system. There's a system set up, not for you, but you have to learn how that there is a system called the kingdom of God, which is higher. It's the higher system. Can I say one other thing too about you know, growing up, not having my father there? I never mistreated my mom. You know, I'm just speaking to some kids or whatever. You know, I don't know if kids or whatever. You know, you can't. My mom was only like, I don't know. She was so short. She was. I don't know how tall she was, but she was short. I would never disrespect her. I never did it. And you know, and I see it today where a lot of kids are just say stuff. I mean, you know, I know why they say it, because they got laws protecting them not getting slapped. That's probably what it is. But
also, and that's the father not being there, or if sometimes the father is there, but he's not present.
Well,
you know?
That's true. But see, I agree with that too. I'm speaking from a position, just because he's not there doesn't mean that you have to.
Right.
What some people do anyways. And that's normally the case, but that's not the excuse.
Right.
Because I mean, I'm an example. I didn't have to do that. And, you know, growing up, and then there were other kids, they they just spoke out whatever. But, that's the first blessing. That's the first promise with blessing, or the commandment with blessing, that, you got to honor your mother and your father. To this day, I would just say this. I'm not, my dad, when I got a chance to talk with him, in the latter days that we had with him, this dude was really smart, man. I got some of his resumes and stuff. I mean, he had several degrees. I was like, oh, this dude was smart. But that war, that thing really messed him up, man. I mean, it really messed him up. And my prayer is for all children who are military children, that their parents, I pray peace over their minds if they come back from war or whatever the traumatic situation is, that that they can find some kind of help, in terms of being able to grow in those situations, because they deal with some serious stuff. Not just saying that I'm not talking from, I think I'm speaking from more of a military child. I'm not speaking for everybody. Now let's get that straight. So don't send me no emails or text messages, whatever. I'm just speaking from me during my time, but I can empathize with some, and also sympathize to the point what they deal with. So it doesn't mean you have to act out, is what I'm saying. You don't have to act out of character and just love your parents while you have them.
Yeah, let's do so. Is there in last got a few minutes, the last 3 minutes, is there something you want to give a nugget to some fathers out there, or you can pray for some fathers out there? This is your moment. What do you want to say to the dads out there? You can pray for them, you can speak into their lives, however you want to feel that.
Well, I'm gonna do that. I would say the first thing I would do is I would say, let me put this in right words. Don't try to be someone else. Don't try to be who God has uniquely called you to be as a father, with also your responsibilities. Don't, like I said, there's no cookie cutter from being a father to one person as it is to another person. So what might work for me and my son may not work for you, but there are foundational things in life that they need to know. Financially, they need to know things about, I'm talking about really I'm not talking about going to school and just like, okay, expect the school to teach your children how money works. They ain't gonna teach your children how money works. People don't want you to know that. They want you in debt the rest of your life and get into that system. I'm just saying, take advantage of the time and really teach them life principles, life living principles, not just some flaky stuff that you just read and, going to school or whatever. Spend time with them, spend time with your child or your children, and be the best father that you can be. And I don't know how that translates, because some people try to make it seem like, okay, if I'll just say some celebrity preacher dad or whatever. I mean, that's a whole different story. Now you got to factor in, can you live like that celebrity preacher and their children? That's a whole different story. Can your children handle that? So they're not in the same situation. You can glean from certain instructions, and please glean from those instructions. And look, God knows, get a book. Get a book on how to be a rich dad, not a poor dad. No, I'm just saying rich dad, poor dad.
It's a good book to read with your children, though.
Yeah, you need to simply teach them as much as possible. Don't ever assume, and never let life teach them. They might hate you in the beginning. They might be upset with you overall, but stay in their faces, stay in their time in terms of assignments and schooling or whatever. Stay connected to their lives. Make sure you're connected. Do not exit their lives. Stay connected in every aspect. My daughter, I'll give you a quick thing right quick. My daughter, had trouble with math and all this other stuff. And man, we got her to confess, and nothing was turning or whatever. We never gave up. We always spoke positive to her. She started at TCC. She got her, she's doing stuff now, doing statistics and all this other stuff. And she's doing it now. And she struggled a little bit. We didn't listen to what the teachers had to say, speaking negative and whatever. We're like, forget all that. We're gonna work this thing. Oh, also have your children's eyes examined. They don't do that anymore in school. Have their eyes examined, because some of the children are struggling to read because they need glasses. Ask me how I know. Yeah. All right, I'm gonna pray for the fathers, and I'm done. You got anything else to say? I'm serious, man. Get them kids checked with them glasses and make sure they can hear too. Because I'm telling you, you remember, Nate, when we were coming up, we had moments where we didn't do any schoolwork. We went to see the nurse. We had people, specialists, to see, where you can hear. They don't do that in school no more.
Oh, they did. They did took time for the school to send us to the nurse.
That's right.
Certain times a year we had eye exams.
That's right.
The nurse. Yeah, I remember that.
Because a lot of kids out here now, they can't see. They can't.
But that goes back to it's a funny moment, but it also goes back into the parents and taking the lead role in the children's lives and making sure that everything is done. Because if you do that, and being a father is not just about speaking. I focus on words, by the father's words to his child. It's not just on speaking. It's about being there, taking care of them, taking them to the doctor, taking them to those checkups.
Get involved with the children.
Get involved.
Stay involved. They're your responsibility. 18 years, you got it. 21 if she's a daughter, what have you. But they're your responsibility. And and I'm not trying to make this. And I know, I got to speak to.
Man, this show is spiritual. This interview, this whole thing is spiritual. So if you go spiritual, do what you do.
I'm just saying, God will back the father. That's the bottom line. He will. Bottom line, he will back the father. If you're out there and you didn't have a father in your life, don't make that the excuse.
Right.
Readers are leaders. You better read some books. Get out. There's a lot of things that you can do that will be helpful. Now, God bless our parents. When we were growing up, they didn't have, they just did what they knew how to do. Now there's no excuse. You can find a book and learn behaviors and things of that nature that are very helpful mentally, that will be helpful for your children. You don't have to wait until they 16 is like, man, I didn't know he had this problem or whatever. I'm not saying they could have some learning disorders, but truth is your child has the mind of Christ.
Yep. So
that means there's a guideline with God. He says, yeah, they might have some issues now, but they ain't gonna have no issues in the futures. And you better not let anybody say anything different.
And that's where the faith element comes in, and where the father's words had hit the authority of father's words comes in and speaks, and you gotta do that. Well, Pastor G, man, I thank you for coming on tonight. We had a ball. Always when I get with you, we have fun. Appreciate you speaking to the fathers and giving those words of wisdom. We're gonna do this again down the road. Have you back on again. Man.
Oh, hold on. I know you got to sign off. Man, I gotta give a shout out. I just gotta give, all these other men in my life. I just gotta drop it. I'm a shout out Pastor Warren. Shout out to him. Great mentor. Emory L. Fears. Shout out to him. He was a father when I got to Norfolk State. It was an interesting relationship. Rogers Brown, awesome man. All these men, Carl Haywood, Dr. Man, all these guys. Wow. Woo, man, we had so many, all those guys in the music department, mentors and so forth. I mean, Alzy Walker, you know, Mr. Walker, God bless his soul. All these guys, you know, there's so many. My brother, my oldest brother John, he was there. You know, great guy. Who else? John, my Uncle Duke. Who else? I'm sorry, man. I got to get them all in. It's so many that were impactful in my life, and I just wanted to shout them out just to say that, because some people don't think that, you know, there are other people that had something to do with your life.
Right.
Okay, I had to throw that in there too.
All right, man. Well, appreciate you, man, for coming on tonight, man. You be blessed, and we can go ahead and sign off. I love you, man.
Love you too, man. Peace.
All right, guys. That was a great interview tonight with my friend, Pastor Gerald Thompson. Again, guys, you can always go and follow us. You can check this interview out if you want to see it again at kingdomrelationships.org, which is our website. If you have any questions about fatherhood, I love the interaction tonight, guys. You coming on and asking questions. We want that to continue. You can email us at krelationships@gmail.com, which is right. I almost got mixed up. And we are going to randomly pick someone who was on to get the $25 Amazon gift card. Not going to tell you who. Just keep out in your Facebook Messenger. If I ask you for your email to send it to you, keep a lookout. Between the next 3 days, you're going to know. Might know as soon as tonight. But guys, thank you for coming on. Until next week, you guys be blessed, be victorious.